Who am I but an orphan? The way I see God is distorted. In my life, who supports? Who am I? I'll break down, don't even bother, cuz I'm a.
How you guys doing? You're tuning into the Fatherhood podcast with myself, the host, Dale Skinner. I'm coming at you from the Baltimore, Maryland area. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can find our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be found. Most of my Fatherhood podcast shorts can only be found under my me and my wife's podcast, brand About This Love. So don't worry, you don't have to look for it. I'll leave the link to that in the descriptions on the videos, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. So for today's topic, I wanted to talk about conflict, especially with our children and as parents. Because I was recently my son had been dealing with a bully in school, and my first reaction as a parent is just to go down to the school and reap havoc. Like, yo, who messed with my kid? You know what I'm saying? And just start swinging, jokingly, of course. But the more I thought about it, the more that I realized that one, my son needs to know how to handle conflict in a healthy way, and two, the way that he sees me and my wife deal with conflict, even if it's on his behalf, probably is gonna be the factor in how he chooses and decide to deal with conflict. So one of the things that I wanted to do naturally was just walk with him through the different situations that he's dealing with in school. Kid was picking on him, had been hitting him, and he had been telling the teacher, making her aware. My son said that he felt like felt like the teacher was just brushing it off, and that she really wasn't, just really wasn't paying attention to what was going on. So, me and my wife, of course, I emailed the principal and just let her know, what my son said and the concerns that I have. And the next day, my son, the principal calls me and says that the son got into an altercation with the kid, but that said that my son hit the kid, which wasn't the truth. My son swatted at the kid who hit him first. Well, one of the things that the school decided to leave out, which my son, upon talking to him, he made me and my wife aware, is that the child's parents worked at the school for the school. So I was kind of alarmed that they would neglect to let us know that detail. But and again, I said to myself, well, maybe it's really irrelevant. Um, I don't want to get all bent out of shape. But through this whole ordeal, one of the things that I realized is that I had to walk with my son as the Lord walked with us. Because one of the things that I didn't want to do as a parent is just go there and just handle the situation myself, which I could have done, and I probably would have done and will do if I feel like it's if I feel like I need to. But also, you always want to teach your children how to handle things. Talk to them and see based off what you said to them how they treat things and their judgment and things of the different situations. And my son handled the situation very well. Now, before the incident happened, this last incident happened when the kid hit him, and my son swatted his hand. Me and my son had a conversation previously because he had been telling his wife for a while now, but I guess it didn't seem as severe, or maybe the kid wasn't doing as much as he is now. And we had a conversation about just how do you handle bullies, or if someone tried to beat you up in school. I was asking, well, what would you do? And he was like, well, I would tell the teacher. So, what if the teacher ain't around? Then what you gonna do? I don't know. I would find something else to tell. Well, I said, well, you can't tell nobody. Now what are you gonna do? And he was at a loss for words. I said, son, your father is not a violent man. I'm a man of peace. And because of that, I teach you to be a man of peace as well. I said, but there are times and situations where sometimes we have to get physical with people. We have to, regardless of, if we want to or not. There's no other options. I said, if someone's trying to beat you up or trying to do something to you that could harm you, it's in your best interest at that point. If no one can step in, whether it's a teacher, or principal, or another faculty member can step in and intervene, it's at your best interest to defend yourself. And you don't have to hurt the kid or beat the kid up. I said, but you do make them understand that you mean business, you know. So my son really handled the situation very, very well. Because on the other hand, my son, he's a very gentle, spirited kid. Not saying he's a pushover, because he's not. But I also know that my son's not violent either. He has siblings, younger siblings that hit him all the time. He's never once hit them. So as his father, I know he's not a violent kid. So if he's responding with violence, someone's provoking him, you know, to do that or to be that. And so, one of the things that I really learned from my son, and he actually surprised me, gave me a different look on him, is that my son, he actually, regardless of what the kid did, he actually didn't want to, hit the kid and respond to the kid with violence, but he was also willing to as well. And one of the things I had to tell my son is that, son, I know that you have God's given you a very gentle spirit. I said, you care about people, you're very considerate, you're kind. I said, but son, there are times where people will take advantage of you if you don't let them know that you mean business. I said, anytime you ask someone to stop hitting you, or stop touching you, or to stop doing anything, or stop talking to you, silly, and they refuse, I said, it's up to you to make sure that they understand that you mean business. I said, and based on the situation, it's up to you really to decide, to use judgment and decide what you should do. I said, now in most situations, son, you should always, defending yourself or putting your hands on someone should always be a last resort. I said, you should exhaust every option. Talk to the teacher, talk to the principal, talk to the teacher again, talk to the principal, talk to the kid. You know what I'm saying? I said, it's really the last resort. I said, but if all else fails and nothing else, seems to get the job done, and the kid, of course, puts his hands on you, then of course, son, defend yourself, And that's what he did. He defended himself. And for me, I realized that when I was my son's age, I didn't have level-headed. Um, I'll say I'll say I won't say that. I was gonna say I didn't have a level-headed parents. I think they were level-headed. I just think that in most situations, parents will always resort to, well, you hit them back, you smack them, and it's like, yes, as a last resort, you know. So just walking with my son through that, it also shows me how the Lord walks with us through things as well. Because one of the things that I realize in walking with my son is that sometimes when you walk people through things or talk to people, especially your children, as the Lord talks to you, you sometimes give them counsel and advice to do something that they don't really want to do. For my son, putting his hands on someone is really outside of his character. So for him to actually get physical with somebody, meaning he would have to actually get outside of his character, which is not natural or easy for someone to do. Like if someone's mean and they're always cussing and they're always fussing and fighting and carrying on, asking them to be peaceful and to, hey man, can you refrain from? Because I know, because I have a coworker of mine who sometimes I hang out with. I gotta be like, hey man, can you like stop? Stop not use so many f bombs, or not use so many cuss so much. And he tries his hardest, but he still cusses because it's just not natural. It's outside of his character to not use cuss words. It's not who he is as a person. So even with my son, like to get him to have to hit somebody, it's not who he is as a person. you know. So even with the Lord, like sometimes the Lord would ask us to do things that it's not. It's beyond our nature to even fathom to even do that. You know, like Jesus would say, "Love your enemies." Love my enemies. What? He'd be like, "What? Love my enemies?" God must be tripping, But I think that in us operating outside of ourselves, we actually we're operating in a form of godliness. Well, not we are, we're operating in a form of godliness. And there even are times where I feel like the Lord would have you to defend yourself. If someone's trying to kill you and you tell me the Lord will protect me, well, you probably gonna meet the Lord. you know, you're probably gonna meet the Lord. I think that there are times where we have to exercise, um, just exercise a certain level of judgment in certain situations and know when should we do something or not do something. So it was a very interesting journey I'm having with my son. We're still kind of going on with that journey because the school doesn't seem like they're gonna do much of anything. And unfortunately, I fear that it will get worse before it gets better. Only because my son goes to some Christian private school, and they were saying they don't believe in um, disciplining the kids. I'm like, what? Like, what kind of silliness is this? So we might end up taking my son out of school because it's just sometimes when things happen, a lot of things begin to be revealed, and you're like, wow, because I was asking my wife. I said, so somebody that drink could get stabbed in the school wouldn't discipline them. Now, of course, I'm sure if that happened, they would have to because that would be that was more so get involved with get the law involved. But my point is that it's just ridiculous that the school doesn't have any kind of disciplinary system for the students. And my other thought would be, well, as a child, if I can do something and not get disciplined, what would stop me from being acting ugly as a kid, slapping everybody in the class? So it's another thing in itself. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please share with me some of the things that if you've gone through the same experiences with bullying with your children and how you handled it, and just any other sort of conflict resolution that you may have had to help your children walk through. I definitely would be interested into hearing about that. Again, Fatherhood Podcast Short, your host, Dale Skinner. Until next time, peace.